act as well too. So people take their time. Shout out to all our people that's going to be coming in on YouTube tonight. We're just going live. We're just going live. We're live on both X/Twitter, and now we're live on YouTube as well too. Tonight's conversation, we're going to be discussing, should we celebrate the role of immigration in Black History Month? This article came on the Newstoter.com platform today, and I believe it was from Nairobian News or something like that. So I figured, hey, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and go into this. When our curation partners actually curate the article, had it on their site, which means it was on our site. So I said, let's go ahead and discuss this tonight. The article is not a long article, but it is something that I felt like it needed to be discussed. We know a lot of times when we're talking about the accomplishments of Black history, people, they tend to go ahead, if there are other Black people / melanated people around the world, they now also include their accomplishments into it as well too. And I figure, hey, this would be a good discussion to have tonight. This would be a good discussion. I can remember growing up sometimes, we had class reports on Black History Month, and some of the kids, I'm here in Florida, so some of the kids were going to be from the islands especially, and they would put in people from the islands they felt played a pivotal role in Black history, be it Bob Marley, be it Marcus Garvey or whoever. So Toussaint for some of the Haitians as well too. So people always had their particular favorites, and then particularly it was always around that ethnic group as well too when they started identifying with Black History Month. So I figured, hey, let's go ahead, get this thing started. We'll talk about it. I know a lot of people have a personal opinion about it as well. Okay, I see you requesting to come up viral. Let me get you up here. So yeah, that's where we're at. Our people will be coming in here slowly, surely. For all my people coming on YouTube, guys, make sure y'all go ahead, subscribe, like, share this broadcast. Click that notification bell. Viral, what's going on with you? I see you requested to come up here and speak. What's up with you now?
What's good, Toby? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. How you doing tonight? And shout out to Andre, too. I saw you just popped your head in here, Andre, so shout out to you as well.
Yeah, man, I've been going back and forth with this guy on Twitter and shit. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting. But yeah, going back and forth with this guy, and he just constantly posting throughout the month, accomplishments of somebody, people from the island. And I'm looking at, with me, when somebody posts something, if I'm not sure about it, I'm really not going to say nothing about it. But I go do my research.
Oh, we lost Viral for 1 second. Let me try to get him back. It could be me, y'all. I could be in the Matrix. So give me 1 second while I go ahead and get this back in. Be 1 second. I lost him temporarily. Hopefully this ain't gonna crash. We don't need the space to crash.
The contents of darkness, because during those days, Black people sold, and we patronized each other. And this guy, he didn't give a doggone who he sold to or bought from. So that's why they labeled him the Prince of Darkness. So all this guy posts, I'm looking up these people, and they're nothing what he's proclaiming them to be. Like the other day he did the Jamaican president from 1991. Come to find out she did so much scandalous stuff and how corrupt she was, and he replied with that her predecessor was backed by the U.S. And I did some more research, and I come to find out so was she. So people like to bring up Marcus Garvey, and I'm gonna say this. I'm always saying this. Marcus Garvey was ours. He might have been from Jamaica, but when he came here, we made Marcus Garvey who he was. he couldn't get it done in Jamaica. And even Dr. John Henry Clark said they tried that today in Jamaica, they'd kill him. And I'll land.
All right, appreciate that, Viral. I kind of lost you for a minute because I had went in the matrix, so I had to come in and close it. So some of what you were saying, because I was in the matrix, I kind of missed it, but I got the gist of what you were saying. So I do apologize for that part. The audio kind of went in and then went out, and I had to go ahead and close it up real quick. So I do apologize for that. What was I going to say? Starry, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Thank you, host. Thank you, Rome. Really quick, there's something very deep that the young man just said. He said, even though Marcus Garvey was a Jamaican, he was ours. Hold on. Now look at this. We made him. I ain't trying to be funny, Black Americans. Have you seen what you've been making? You made Pan-African Day. It's you. You got to look at the man in the mirror now, and it's a Black American. It's funny that we talk about this. We're making, just like you make a child that resents you in the end. You know, you gave him and spoiled him, gave him everything, didn't want to really teach him, thought he was so cute or she was so cute. You know, now they got older, now they're disrespectful. Same thing with what's going on now. We made that Nigerian. I ain't trying to be funny. That the one that's at the head of the table right now. That's us. And we're gonna have to take accountability for it. Thank you.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you. Let me give a shout out real quick. I see Ray down there. I see Gone Fishing, aka Stephanie. Mary, of course, I gave you a shout out. Andre as well too. Takes a little while for our people to come up in the space, but they do come up in here as well. So shout out to everybody that's coming up in here. What's up, DJ? How are you with the audio? You hear me okay?
Check 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Shout out to the Newstoter By. Let's go.
All right. Sound a little low there, but you could just be away from the phone some. But I can hear you, but you sound a little low. I saw Ray requested to come up here as well too. Ray, I saw you up here just a second ago. Okay, now I see you up here. Okay. Go ahead, Ray, you got it.
What's going on, news? You know, these Twitter spaces can be a little janky sometimes, man. I be seeing people talking, but I can't tell who the person is. I just have to kind of go by the voice. But should we celebrate the role of immigrants in Black History Month? This is going to be a good conversation because, yes, we do have a lot of good immigrants. We have the Marcus Garveys that came over here. I believe Malcolm X's mother was from the Caribbean. So I do think they do have their place, but only if they were on code with us. I want to make sure I put that disclaimer out there. Now land right there.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you coming up here to Ray. I guess I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump into this article. It's from the Neo Jim Crow, and they curated it, like I say, from one of those African sites. I cannot remember the name, but they curated it from the Nubian News or something like that. But either way, the actual title is Celebrate Role of Immigration in Black History Month. I just added, should we? So let me go ahead and get up into this. Like I said, it's from our curation partner, Neo Jim Crow. Although the role of immigration and the creation of the African-American demographic has never been truly appreciated, it is now important to revisit it, given the emerging trend of reverse migration engineered by the Trump administration. Although the initial waves of movement of people of color from Africa to the U.S. was involuntary to the extent that it was driven by slavery, the need for labor that drove this wave persisted even more after emancipation, when monetary value was assigned to the labor of African Americans under capitalism. Over the years, America, styling itself as a land of opportunity, has engaged in an annual ritual of encouraging immigration from Africa and other regions through what has come to be known as DV lottery or the green card. Until President Trump was sworn in, there was an acknowledgement that people of color, including Africans, were welcome in the U.S. as part of an agenda to drive diversity and inclusion. With the coming of Trump, however, America has taken a drastic and abrupt U-turn on this policy, triggering a wave of forced deportation of people of color, including Hispanics, who have migrated in large numbers, albeit illegally, into the U.S. The point that is worth making, however, is that the immigration of African peoples over the centuries is what has created the ever-changing tapestry of people of color that we identify as African American. This article is something else, guys, so I want y'all to pay attention to it. True, there are those who, by birth, and history, feel they are more African American than the Johnny come latelys. However, it is difficult to run away from the reality that the African who immigrates to the U.S. and becomes a citizen are also African Americans. Indeed, some have sought and secured political office, with Momini Hisley being one of the latest best examples. I believe she's a representative up there in Minnesota, African representative. The act of political inclusion has its roots in the immigration, and this makes it all the more important to revisit and amplify the nexus between immigration, the changing face of Black history. In the past, this celebration of February as Black History Month was confined to the demographic that's traced its origin to the cotton plantations of the South, which identified with heroes like George Washington Carver and Booker T. Washington, or heroes like Harriet Tubman and my favorite, Zora Neale Hurston. However, that purity that has been melting into the cultural part that has brought other Africans and Caribbeans into the mix, this was even more evident in the persona of former Vice President Kamala Harris, who has both African and Indian blood in her veins and who also traces her roots to the Caribbean. We ought to, in my view, celebrate her as a woman of color who has scaled the highest peak in American politics and deserves to share a pedestal with other equally worthy predecessors like Condoleezza Rice. Indeed, as part of Black History Month, we should take time to reevaluate the place of people of color in the Trump administration because, in my view, African Americans, irrespective of their shades, have been handed the short end of the political stick. There is so far no man or woman of color in the Trump cabinet, with the exception of Elon Musk, who has been handed a poisonous cup. There is no high-ranking African American in any key appointed positions in the Trump government. And for a race that has made such progress under the administrations of both Obama and Biden, blacks have been terribly shortchanged by the current administration, despite their support for President Trump at the ballot, which ironically came at the expense of their own daughter, Harris. One of the shifts that needs to happen is for African Americans to come to terms with the reality that the identity has morphed and is no longer the preserve of the descendants of slaves. It is and ought to be claimed by descendants of men and women of color who were driven to the U.S. by demands of labor. Once this sinks in, the idea of deporting immigrants of a few decades or years ago should be mainstream and injustice against all people in color, including the African American diaspora. Power is shifting. The control of the instruments that create wealth is shifting. African American of all shades and persuasions ought therefore to forget African Americans of all shades and persuasions ought therefore to forget terrorism as under and find commonalities that will position them at the high table of politics and capitalism. Like I said, this article was also written, was written by a foreign news outlet. So some of the actual the pronunciations and the actual spelling, and it was a little bit different. But wow, I wondered when I saw that article and I read it, I said, yeah, okay. I said this would be a good conversation to have tonight. Ray, I don't know if you heard me reading it. What's up, Pressure? I see you down there as well too. You guys heard the article, and the article, it made a point. It's basically saying that one of the shifts that needs to happen is for African Americans, and by African Americans, I mean in Black Americans, to come to terms with the reality that the identity has morphed and is no longer the preserve of the descendants of slaves. So this article is saying that, hey, we got to understand that Black History Month is bigger than you guys who actually created Black history, and that, it belongs to the entire world. The entire world actually pretty much from my understanding, from what this article reads, the entire world has a right to claim Black History Month, and that you guys, that even though you're the descendant of slaves and it was based on you guys, hey, you got to understand, you got to realize that, hey, that day is over with and it's no longer yours. Like, you have to share it. So this article was pretty, and this is from an African newspaper as well too. So this article was pretty straightforward. You could hear that the article was pro Joe Biden and pro Democrats as well too, because it's talking about Trump and the deportation and everything that's taking place. So let me go ahead and get back to Starry. Starry, go ahead, unmute your mic. You got it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No disrespect, but I knew I was waiting for you to go ahead and let me know who the writer was. And I'm not trying to say it like that. They're trying to take over our identity. African American never meant African. And I know they understood that. They understood that up to the fact that African Americans, quote unquote, start to take our rightful place. And when they see that there's tangibles by saying, hey, I can cosplay as Black today, and then go back and let them know when it's time for me to get my award, or it's time for me to speak up and let you know that who I am, I'm not them. It's not morphing into anything. It's always been the same. It's Black Americans who have ancestry. And excuse me. And with that being stated, y'all, it's not funny. It's very disrespectful. I believe, and I think we all know this, if the Biden administration or the Democrats would have got back into office, it was over for Black Americans. It's just like you know that it's a predator live down the street, and y'all know what he's been doing all this time. And for you to let your child go down that way to play, knowing that's the only house at the end of the block, it's a dead end street down there. Why the hell do we keep trying to fool with the Democrats? They don't have nothing for us. They don't like us. They only mess with us when they need us. Just like, and I always have a type of variable with something that I have. Just like a nighttime girl. You know, at the end of the night on the club, there's only 3 or 4, and you're like, dang, I might as well go and take her home, because he did not get what he wanted. If I would have got what I wanted on the early tip, I want to still be sitting around there looking at me. Dang, oh girl, she been feeling me. I'm gonna be out with her. It's something mentally wrong with us to keep on allowing these people to disrespect us.
Starry, you got a headset on, sweetie?
No, I'm sorry. I'm in my car.
Oh, okay. You sound kind of low, but go ahead.
Pardon me. This weather is changing. Okay, but with that being said, Black Americans, it's time to let that Democratic Party crash and burn for good forever. Leave them where they at, because they're showing us. And I bet you my last dollar, whoever wrote this article is going to line up with the Democratic Party, because they understand that the Democratic Party wants us out. And the messed up, I call myself Newstoter. The messed up part about it, y'all know who's behind this stuff? The same Africans and the same Caribbeans and the same non-Black Americans and a few Black Americans that are behind articles like this. They want to see us go for good, y'all. Do not let these people back in office. Last thing, and I promise, we have Trump right now. I'm on one list, I'm jumping out. Thank God that he can't, because he would have showed us what was going on behind closed doors. Black Americans would have never believed it at all. We would have went to our grave, and come to find out, people that put us in the grave, they slit our throats. The same people who praise them. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sister. Let me go ahead and get to gone fishing. What's going on, Steph?
Oh boy. I have never been so offended in my life.
That article was something, wasn't it?
It's so offensive that I'm actually really calm. I'm like pissed off, but I'm very calm. People wonder why other folks use the word tether. Okay? This is one of the many blueprints of why people are called tethers. It is offensive, and this is what the invasion of the body snatchers look like. Okay? How in the world, you're like continents away from the United States. Okay? North America, let's just say that. and you want to identify onto someone else's culture, someone else's history, someone else's landmass, okay? I respect everybody's culture. I respect everybody's religion. I respect it, okay? But I'll be doggone if I'm going to sit here and let somebody that's several continents away come here and lay claim to something that my family, my ancestors' blood, sweat, tears, bodies is in the soil. Come over here and disrespect my ancestors by doing something like this. People, if you got time, you got a few days left to register with the OMB. This is important, okay? I am deeply offended by this. Number one, Caribbean Heritage Month is in June? And I think they have some type of African Heritage Month in May or something like that. Give us a break. Give us a freaking break. This is why I put in your comment section, we have to learn from the mistakes that we've made in the past, because this is really past the point of being ridiculous. We have to learn from our mistakes, hopefully grow from them, and make wiser decisions when it comes to situations like this, because it shows, and this is where the term all kinfolk come from. It comes from people like this. This is almost like being in a schoolyard and the schoolyard bully comes up and takes your sandwich and say, "This is my sandwich now." How can you force yourself on somebody else that don't want to be bothered? You might have a handful that'll say, "Okay, yeah, I identify," or whatever, go to the continent. There's no disrespect towards anybody. I'm glad. God bless you. Whatever works out for you, I hope it works out. But do not force your ideology on other people that choose not to identify with it. I wasn't born over there. I was born here. My ancestors were born here. They endured everything over here. Our history starts here. Whether they say we was on a boat or we was already here, our history starts here. And I'm just going to land with that. I am so upset, but thank you for letting me speak.
Oh no, you were fine. I mean, you were fine. And anybody else that wants to come up here and speak as well too. I know many of you guys missed the actual article that I read, and that article is something else. The article was actually it was curated on the Newstoter.com platform from one of our curation partners, but it was actually it was curated from, I believe, the it's an African site, but it was curated from there. And if you were in the room where I actually read the article, it talks about and I just want to go back and highlight this point right here. It says let me find this section here. Says one of the shifts that needs to happen is for African Americans, meaning Black Americans, to come to terms with the reality that the identity has morphed and is no longer the preserve of the descendants of slaves. It is and ought to be claimed by descendants of men and women of color who were driven to the U.S. by demands of labor. I mean, what does that even mean? So that means that anybody that came here, regardless of phenotype, should be able to say, you know what, the Black History Month is also our history as well too, and we're gonna claim it. Like I said, I grew up in South Florida, and I was around a lot of Caribbean Blacks and stuff like that. And when you have Black history, you know, they and I mentioned earlier, you know, they put in their heroes from the Caribbean and stuff like that, and nobody had an issue or whatever. But for somebody to sit up here and say, you know what, you know, you guys can't claim your identity, we're all the same and this and that or whatever, and you're just coming here, because this article mentions this a couple times. You know, the article mentions it a couple times. It talks about the Johnny come latelys and everything of that nature too. It says, true, there are those who by virtue of birth and history feel that they are more African American than the Johnny come latelys. However, it is difficult to run away from the reality that the African who immigrates to the U.S. and becomes a citizen is also African Americans as well too. So, you know, the article several times in here, you know, I just, you know, I don't have an issue with somebody for Black History Month. If you want to claim, if you're African, you want to claim the Mali Empire as part of Black history, this and that, you want to claim something over there in the Caribbean, whatever, you know, that's fine and good. I mean, you have that right to, but when you're saying that, hey, you know, basically, you know, you guys, we have as much say to the month as you have it, when you have holidays and you have special select days and this and that or whatever that you guys came up with, that if I was to come up to you and say the same thing, you say, hey, you know what, really there is no Caribbean day. It's just a black day, and this day is just as much mine as yours. You would get upset about that. You would get really, really upset about that. So that's my issue with it. I'm just like, DJ Ray, tell me what y'all think about the article. I know DJ, I know you be coming back and forth, but Ray, I know you heard it. What's your opinion about that article that I just read? And I wish more of y'all were in the actual room when I read it, because the article, just like I said, it talks about Trump, and it talks about, in this article, it's talking about immigration, it's talking about Biden, and it's talking about Trump and how he's basically destroying the country with deportation and this and that or whatever. It's also making a call for black people in this country also to stand against immigration, against all immigration as well too. African American of all shades and persuasions ought therefore to forget. And like I say, it's from Africa, so the actual translation between English, their English, and I know they have some of these English speaking nations. It says, therefore, to forget tears them asunder and find commonalities that will position them at the high table of politics and capitalism. Okay, I'm not even understanding that, but it says once this sinks in. Oh, it was talking about the it says. That when it says one of the shifts that needs to happen is for African Americans to come to terms with the reality that the identity has morphed and is no longer the preserve of the descendants of slaves. It is and ought to be claimed by descendants and men and women of color who were driven to the U.S. by demands of labor. Once this sinks in, the idea of deporting immigrants of a few decades or years ago should be mainstreamed as an injustice against all people of color, including the African American diaspora. Power is shifting. The control of the instruments that create wealth is shifting. So, like I said, this article, man, it's kind of, that's why I want to actually touch up on this article for Black History Month as well too. It came in today, and I'm like, hey, this is something worth speaking on. Ray, you got any opinion about that? I know you back and forth working with your classes and stuff, but is anything, because I'm gonna have to read the article again for the room just so they can hear it for the people that missed it. But you got anything you want to add to that, Ray?
Yeah, I'm actually taking a break from school tonight, man. I'm just cooking for the family. So from what I understand, this is just my opinion. When you say, honestly, Black History Month, I don't think of Africans. I really don't. I don't think of Caribbeans. I think of our ancestors, the Rosa Parks, the Martin Luther Kings, I know Malcolm X, again, he has, I think his Caribbean lineage too. But you think about him.
I think about the same thing as well too, like you, but go ahead.
No. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking of. And it seems like this is just their attempt to kind of shoehorn their way into our history. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, do they technically have a spot? Yes, because yes, they are melanated. Well, again, that's not who we're thinking about when we refer to them. Because, again, if we were to go to the Caribbean or to Africa, we wouldn't be involved in any celebrations that they have. So why should we, in turn, try to really invite them in?
Hey, I mean, like I say, and I'm with you on that. I too, when I think about Black History Month, I think about Black Americans in this country and everything that they accomplished. Like that was always like Black History Month to me was always about American history that Black people achieved in this country. I didn't really think about the global history that Black people may accomplish worldwide over centuries, anything like that. I didn't claim, I didn't think about Egypt or none of the other places, West African empires. I didn't think about any of that. My main thing was growing up, in all of the shows and specials and documentary watch and everything was pretty much, like you say, was on Black people in this country. Now, do you have some Black people that have Caribbean heritage that, you have some, you have a few. But the vast majority of the people that when we study in Black history, the vast majority of them are Black Americans. So, and like I said, when I went to school with people, down, so I didn't have an issue, when people say, hey, they're going to do one on Marcus Garvey, they're going to do one on Cicely Tyson, they're going to do one on this person, they're going to do one on that person. Nobody was, oh, no, you can't do that. You got to only do it on Black Americans. Nobody said anything. Like, okay, well, at that time, you're talking about in the 90s, everybody's idea was like, hey, even though that this person, Marcus Garvey, is not black, even though black American, even though Tucson is not a black American. Everybody in the 90s saying, okay, these people are still black people. So if you want to do something on it, okay, fine. But the whole idea is saying that, hey, you got to accept it this way, or you got to accept it that way, and it's not yours. And even though you're descendants of slaves, and like something that's historical, that there was no other nation in the country talking about Black History Month being taught, the way that they were teaching it over here. There was no celebration of it, even though it started as Black History Week or whatever, and then, it expanded. So to sit up here and say, you know what, I am a Johnny come lately. I have come lately, and even though you created this and that or whatever, I'm just as much a part of this as you are. That's delusional at best. You're not just as much a part of it. We give you props, and and you can go ahead and you can claim, whoever you want to claim and this and that, but you should not feel like you have the authority or the right to tell Black Americans, hey, we're going to do it this way, we're going to do it that way. And it just, that's to me, that's just disrespectful. Like I said, you wouldn't go any other place and tell somebody like that. If this was Asian, if this was about Chinese, if it was Chinese History Month or something like that, and just because you may be mixed with Chinese or whatever, or have somebody in your family is Chinese, they're not going to sit up there and tell the Chinese how they're going to handle this and how they're going to do this. So that's the issue I'm having right there with it. It's like, wow. And pretty much it's a pro-immigration. It's this and that. It's pretty much saying, hey, you guys basically need to stand up. People come over here, they work and this and that, they become part of it. They're just like you. And not only that, but you guys should also push back and fight against immigration or whatever, because we're all people of color. Like the whole thing. I mean, too often in this actual article, the mention of people of color, they had to mention it about anywhere from 3 to 5 times. People of color, woman of color, even what's her name? Kamala Harris is mentioned as a woman of color as well too. And generally when Black people are writing stuff like that, generally do we say woman of color, people of color? So even though this is from an African, this is curated off an African news site, I wonder who actually wrote this actual article as well too. Ray, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Well, the news, I was just going to say, we need to definitely be careful, because if we look at the past, I'm sorry I had food in my mouth, it kind of caught me off guard with hip-hop. So if you notice with hip-hop, when we started letting the Latinos, when they came to the picture, eventually it became a narrative of, we create this with y'all 50-50. And if we allow, the Africans to come in, I feel the same thing may happen. And it'll go from Black history being about Black Americans to, well, Black history isn't really about y'all at all, because Africa was here before America. And I don't want to turn it into one of those situations.
Yeah, I think you have to be careful. Here's the thing, too. Only thing about hip hop, when you had all of this stuff going, let's be for real, the early forms of hip hop really wasn't documented. It wasn't on TV, and it wasn't like the way Black History Month has been documented, since its inception, is a little bit different in hip hop. Because even though, people were doing the art form up there in New York and all over doing hip hop, nobody was really writing it down. Okay, this year we started this and that, giving you like steps and this and that or whatever. Like, we all know that Carter G. Woodson came up with Black History Week. We know how to expand it. We know everything, from how small it started to where it is now. So there's really no way, unless we allow people to go ahead and just take it over. And that's something that Black people, I think, for the longest Black Americans have done. When you accomplish something, somebody said, hey, we did this, we did that, even though they may not be of freedmen, Black American, Negro, whatever descent you want to say. They may not have that actual bloodline. The people say, oh, okay, well, you Black too as well, so you can claim it and this and that or whatever. I think we see this as for what it is, and that's something that we just got to hold on to. You got to like, hey, it's nothing wrong with you acknowledging your history or this and that or whatever, but don't sit up here and say, we're equals in this, and you need to get rid of because you're a descendant of slaves and all this nonsense, it doesn't really matter. And he's like, yeah, it does matter. That's why the history was the actual Black History Month or week came into creation, because everything that you had accomplished in this country, you know, nobody wanted to give you any credit for it, any acknowledgement, anything else like that as well too. And it's because you had these ties of slavery and stuff like that they just try to go ahead and ignore it and just act like he was some kind of cotton pick or whatever. Yeah, you do. We do need to acknowledge that, and we do need to stand up and like, hey, this is something that we did. This is something that we created. I'm not hateful, anything like that. Like I say, if you want to acknowledge, you know, the diaspora and some of their achievements and this and that or whatever, you know, fine. I don't have a problem with that, but don't sit here and say that, you know, Black Americans, the identity that you have, it's all our identity once we move here and this and that or whatever. Even though we know legally on paper, you know, once you come to this country, on paper, they will say, well, this person is, even whether you're from Jamaica, Africa, wherever, they go, oh, this person is Black. So that's going to stick to you pretty much. But I just have an issue with the way this article was written and the way the article is looking really to be, it's really anti deportation. It's really about immigration, and it's really about, hey, not only is it about immigration, but it's basically saying, hey, sending out dog whistles saying, hey, you guys need to stand up and you need to go ahead. And it's saying against everybody that you need to be against immigration for everybody, you know, all people of colors, including it says once this sinks in, the idea of deporting immigrants of a few decades or years ago should be mainstream as injustice against all people of color, including the African American diaspora. Power is shifting. The control of instruments that create wealth is shifting. So that's what I'm saying. This article to me, you know, it's kind of, you know, anti-deportation is, hey, Black Americans or African Americans, as it calls us in the article, hey, you guys need to stand up and you need to be against all type of deportation. I don't care whether the people come here legally or not. You need to stand up against that, including for the African American diaspora, it says. Go ahead, Stephanie, you got it.
No, DJ can go first.
No, ladies first.
Okay, no problem. First off, I just wanted to say this, right? I'm from the hip hop around that time, maybe in the later time, right? And as far as I can remember, people got checked. Okay, back then people was checking people on who they were, because not everybody can just jump in and join that movement at the time, because it was oppression against Black during that era. Okay, Martin Luther King, Fred Hampton being killed and stuff, it brought up a new uprising. So no, people like that, they did their best to stay as far away from us as they possibly could, if you catch my drift. They had their own communities. They lived within their own communities. They was not around us like that. Okay? I'm not saying all of them were like that, but maybe a handful that was around us. But the majority did not want anything, no association, no ties with us whatsoever. Okay? Clearing that part out. Number two, I'm celebrating my own. Okay? Black History Month was for us. It was meant for us. We're still learning stories about people from our past that I think we should stick to. Like I said, they got their own Heritage Month in June and May. Leave us alone. That's it. Just leave us alone. And then what else I picked from the article is they're trying to shame us into supporting them and backing immigration. And this is another thing. This is why I said we definitely got to get these votes into the OMB within the next couple of days, or else we're going to be dealing with this again. And I'm just going to land at that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. Go ahead, DJ.
Yeah, I'm piggyback everything off Stephanie said for the most part. So the answer is hell no to the no. And the reason for that is, like she said, us living up here in the north, these people stayed to themselves, aka segregated themselves away from us. During our civil rights movements and throughout the country in the 60s, they wasn't around banging with us. Excuse me. You might have had one or two, like she said. You could give them, the contribution, who contributed
to the movement, but not the whole group of Ricans or whatever Hispanic or other Latino, because there was no other Latino other than a Mexican. Excuse me. And you already know how they feel about it, La Viva Raza, you know what I'm saying? So when you say, hey, get these other folks like Africans, Caribbeans, these people didn't get here till the mid-'80s, y'all. I don't really think, I think we think that they've been here the whole time or something. You know what I mean? Do people here really think that? Like
well, you start having some of them coming in the 60s and stuff, the mid and late 60s.
You're talking about 1 or 2 individuals, bro. Not like no conglomerate of a group. Same thing when the Haitians came here in the 80s. They came here because they island on fire. You feel what I'm saying? And whatever treaty Haiti made with the United States for them to come here during that time. And then obviously we did the story on the 1965 Immigration Reform Act. That changed things for everybody, no matter white or black, you know what I'm saying? Or wherever you're from in the world at this point. So you can freely come here now with no issues. But still, the vast majority of any diaspora joker, they didn't come here until the 80s, mid-80s. I'm old enough to know that as a 44-year-old black male. I'm from Newark, you know what I'm saying? These folks wasn't around then here in Essex County, so they couldn't have been down in Atlanta, Georgia. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't have been in Compton, California either. It just wasn't around like that, you know what I mean? Back to the Hispanics or whatever the case be, and I guess these other Latinos, it really would be the same thing. There wasn't really no Cubans or nothing like that up here. We got a Portuguese section, but they still didn't come here until like the 80s, because that section of North, what we call a Portuguese section, it was all black Americans at one point that was living in the downtown area near Penn Station and all that. So it's like, when you say, hey, whatever this article is inquiring, should we celebrate the role of immigration in black history for what? Y'all haven't done anything here to help accelerate blackness in our eyes. You know what I'm saying? You don't get any credit for not even participating. You ain't even raise your hand. That's not a participation trophy, yo. You know what I mean? And then let's clear up the real narrative, right? Of how these people really feel about us. And again, this is not an all conversation, because all don't feel like that. I got folks from all walks of life. You know what I'm saying? I got family from different backgrounds, whatever, right? The fact of the matter is, if you got certain individuals up here saying, hey, yeah, y'all slaves, y'all farm equipment, y'all sold food, it tastes like slave food and all this other stuff, saying we shouldn't get reparations and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. Therefore, meaning you could get pretty much take an assumptive guess that the vast majority on the continent feels like that, or the vast majority in the Caribbean feels like that. You can go online, and I've been watching this. I play in the late night space a little bit about the anti-blackness from these Latino Hispanics. You know what I mean? It's prevalent and embedded in their culture that hate the darker race. And they hate us even more, the American Negro, because we pretty much survived what we wasn't supposed to survive. Yeah. We went through so many atrocities that is on record. And this is the conversation from yesterday. You know what I'm saying? All you got to do is go do your genealogy, and you really do it by way of asking the eldest person in your family. Where the family photos at? What was life like when you were 16 years old, 18, 20, 30, 40? You feel what I'm saying? What was going on in those times? You feel what I'm saying? Another thing I always tell folks to look up, your birth year, right? Go look up what was going on in your birth year. It'll blow your mind, yo. You feel what I'm saying? Go look up what's going on in your daddy's birth year, grandma's. And, for those that know who their great-grandparents is, go look up their birth years and see what was going on. We've been going through the same thing decade after decade, generation after generation, dealing with slavery, Jim Crow, black codes, civil rights, affirmative action, drug era, the Black Panther movement of the 60s, 70s. I just added up. and still going through it. You know what I mean? And then when we finally got my fingers up a black president, Obama, who's a Kenyan tethered, you know what I'm saying, and German mixed tethered. He's a tether mutt. You know what I'm saying? New word unlocked, y'all. Tether mutt. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, what did Obama do for us as a person who is technically an immigrant? Trump may have been 100% right to say, hey, that birth certificate is fake as hell, because we really don't know who you are now, considering that us here in America, not no Congolese, not no Jamaican Naka, but yo, tether Naka, tether corn ass, you know what I'm saying, in the White House, bro. You feel what I'm saying? And you did nothing for us. You did for everybody else except for the Negroes. You did for DACA. You did for gay marriage. You did for other people in other parts of the world. Same thing, Biden. Come in. Oh, I ain't gonna forget you Negroes. When you got me in office, whatever the case be. Did nothing. You let all these immigrants into our neighborhood. Oh, excuse me, illegals. They ain't immigrated from nowhere. You know what I'm saying? You let all the illegal tethers into our neighborhoods, flooded the zone, trying to erase us. So, yeah, I went MAGA-LAGA across the board because these illegals, they are in my neighborhood, taking over the resources, jobs, housing, education. That stuff is for our kids. Y'all gotta go. You come from a country of origin, post 1865. Do not call these people black, yo. I don't care if they got the same melanated skin you got. You know what I'm saying? Do not, under any circumstances, say, yeah, what's up, black man, or black woman, or cuz, or none of that stuff, B. You know what I'm saying? And look, the whole African American thing, all right, I get that's us, but we gotta stop saying that. You know what I'm saying? No doubt. You know what I mean? So with that being said, at the end of the day, they shouldn't get any kudos about anything because we can't go celebrate the Caribbean. We're not included in the Caribbean festivals or as being acknowledged, you know, and even one is there up here in New York. Am I right, Gone Fishing? We just did it.
Absolutely. They didn't even want us in. Right? They didn't even want us in AFRICOM. So celebrate with who?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure it out. So I guess with that being said, the answer is no. And Steve the Show Art Anal, nah, we not letting you up because you might be a part of the R Word Knackers group that's on here on X. So you ain't a part of that group, is you, Steve? You know what I'm saying? Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, I don't know if Steve is. Steve, are you a troll or you here to conversate tonight? Okay, he disconnected. All right, that's cool. Let us go ahead. Let me get to what's the name? That rat. I'm gonna get back to you. Let me get to that rat. Let me get to a new speaker real quick.
What's up, fellas and ladies?
What's going?
Whoever was talking, hey, congratulations. That was very nice to hear, and you are 100% correct. In 1991, in Baltimore City, there wasn't anything but black people and white people. In 2001, in Baltimore City, there wasn't anything but black people and white people. In 2015, in Baltimore City, there wasn't anything but black people and white people. And then 2019-ish, everybody started showing the fuck up.
Well, hey, watch your language. Watch your language.
Okay, that's fine. In southeast Baltimore, right now, a lot of Muslims are down there. They starting to pop up. And these people who come here that are not, I would say, at least 3 generations American. You know, if you can't put 3 generations down, you kind of really do. They hijack black culture. They integrate. They talk like you. You gave, listen, you gave him the N-word pass. You know, Puerto Rican says the N-word. He rocks with you, Fat Joe, Big Pun. They took that.
Well, first off, all the black American didn't give anybody the N-word pass. I'm down here in the South, and we didn't give anybody the N-word pass.
Well, I don't know how many Puerto Ricans you got.
I'm in Florida. We got a bunch of Puerto Ricans, and they didn't grow up calling us nigga.
Well, I'm talking about, you know, I'm not looking for an argument. So if you want to argue with somebody, I'm not the guy.
Oh no, I'm not looking for an argument. I'm telling you what's factual. Oh, hold on. I'm telling you what. Wait. Hold on. There's no argument to start because I'm telling you what's factual. Growing up in the '90s, I had Puerto Rican homeboys, and they didn't call me nigga to my face.
Listen, I don't know how old you are.
I'm in my 40s.
Okay, so you remember Big Pun Capital Punishment CD?
Yeah, Big Pun. Yeah, I remember it. That's in New York. New York ain't all of Black America.
Man, I'm piggybacking off of my man's Northeast conversation. I'm staying on what the gentleman before me was talking, the location he was talking from. Baltimore and Newark ain't but 100 miles, ain't even but 3 hours from each other. I'm just going by this Mid-Atlantic Northeast region and the culture up here where we have a lot more people. There's a lot more people between Washington, D.C. and New York City than Miami and Jacksonville. I'm just giving you...
Okay, you do realize that Florida is the third largest state in the country, right?
Are we really having this debate?
You realize Florida is the third largest country in the state, right?
Sir, the population...
Sir, you do realize... Hold on before we go any further.
You guys have a nice night. I hope you get it together, Bubba.
Yeah, get your ass up out of here because you're talking crazy. You do realize Florida is the third largest state in the United States of America. See, this is one of these white boys that was gonna come in here and act like he was white chocolate and talk about you gave him the N-word pass and all this stuff. He was getting ready to try to troll and talk crazy and talk all this nonsense and all this other mess. But listen, we didn't give anybody N-word pass down here in Florida. So I don't know what you're talking about. In most of the South, there is no N-word pass. And for those that did try to say the N-word pass, they got straightened out as well too. He probably got the N-word pass from a couple Toms up there up north, and they told him that it was cool because he was a cool white boy, so he could say nigga this, nigga that. So he got ready to come in here trying to troll and this and that or whatever. He talked. Well, we're talking about the population. Listen, I don't give a damn about the population. What you talking about? Florida is the third largest state. Florida is large, just as large population wise. It goes back and forth between them and New York. Depending on where you look at, Florida be third or New York is third. But please save us. Out of 50 states, it's bigger than at least 46, 47 other states. So don't sit up here and tell me about New Jersey in terms of population. New Jersey is nowhere near the size of Florida. So don't come up here with this garbage. He's sitting up here talking about we gave him the N-word pass and this and that or whatever. That wasn't even what the space was about, white boy. Go ahead, Professor. I'm gonna get back to Ray.
Yeah, shout out to everybody in the space tonight. Definitely got to say here that immigrants have no part or whatever. Immigration has no part in Black History Month. Black America, and let me make this clear, it's Black American history. When we talk about it here in America, it's Black American history. So immigration plays no part in this, what we have built, what our ancestors took care of, and what they built. The legacy belongs to our people. We have to start understanding and standing on what our people have done in this country and stop trying to give away what we have done to other groups. Stop trying to bring other groups into what we have built. Stop trying to be this group that wants to save everybody else. We got to move away from that because it has been a detriment to Black Americans. Caping for everybody is not a winning formula. It's a detriment to us.
we got to start being on the fact that we are a group that was brought into this country. We was victimized. We was put in bondage. We have been discredited. We have been spat upon. We have been mocked. We have been done all kinds of wrongs. And no other group can relate to that, okay? These other groups come in because they want to come in to leech. And that's the real truth. They have not earned their keep. That's the real truth. They have not earned their keep, and they don't come in here to earn their keep. They come in here to take and just continue to take. And then come in here to mock us, to want to take from us and say that, hey, we did this. You guys didn't do this. We did it. Like what Fat Joe and this other guy, John Leguizamo, keeps doing. They keep trying to find a way to say that they invented this or they started this, and Black Americans are the ones that took from us. See, they try to reverse all of this. And the reason why this is being done, because white people feel threatened by us and they want us out of this country, y'all, because they know we are the one group that has stood the test of time against all of the stuff that they have been doing and that they continue to do. So Black Americans in this space and beyond this space, understand your legacy and why we have to stand 10 toes down in what is ours, and we got to believe that no other group has done anything to contribute to what we have built here, okay? This is ours. So I'm not going to honor or celebrate immigrants. I'm going to honor and celebrate Black American legacy. And I stand 10 toes down with that, told her. And I say, shout out to all of you. I can't wait to hear what everybody else have to say about it, but that is what I stand on. I hope all of you stand on that. This is what our people did, not what other groups want to come in and add in and reach on to, you know, these transformers and LGBTQ folks and all this crap. I'm sorry, man. This is about Black American history, okay? This is about what we done. And shout out to Dana right there. I ain't seen this sister Dana in a while, so shout out to her. I'm glad to see her up in here.
Hey, shout out to Miss Dana as well too. Shout out to That Negro. Shout out to Fresh. I see Black Majority State down there. I see Tata down there. Pressure You down there. QT down there. Mr. Finn down there. So shout out to all you guys that's up in the space with us tonight as well too. Professor, I want to ask you this real quick. Now, like we're talking about, and like I said, my issue with this article was the way it was written up and the way it it was basically saying that, Black people, you guys have to accept, like, Black History Month is no longer yours, that it's the entire world's basically, or whatever. So that's the big issue I had with it. It's also basically trying to play on, hey, you guys, you must support immigration for everybody, including what it says, the African American diaspora. So it's saying anybody that comes over to immigrate, you guys need to go ahead and support and stand up for it. Let me ask you a question about this though, Professor. It's Black History Month or whatever, and if somebody says, you know what, do you have an issue with somebody from South Africa saying, you know what, they're doing a report and they're honoring Nelson Mandela, they're including him for Black History Month, even though we know that it was created here in America? Would you have an issue with somebody that says, you know what, I'm going to give a shout out to Nelson Mandela. I'm going to give a shout out to Mansa Musa. I'm going to give a shout out to Marcus Garvey or Bob Marley, anybody like that as well too. Do you have an issue? Because like I say, growing up down south, there were people, Caribbean people, they did reports, Black history reports when we was in school on Caribbean Blacks, and nobody had an issue with it or anything like that. So let me see where you at. Did you have an issue if somebody says, you know what, Nelson Mandela is a part of Black History Month as well too?
Total. Now, in the space last night, y'all probably heard me say that I do give a shout out to
some of our, I guess you say family, I will say family, in South Africa, because they went through similar situation as the Black American family over here. And of course, y'all know what I mean when I say that. Apartheid and then Jim Crow segregation, right? Two similar systems that were set up by white racist people, right? Those are the same system. They just call them different names. So the South African people that were trying to lead against that oppression or oppressive system, like Nelson Mandela, yes, I include Nelson Mandela into that because we actually correlated with him while he was going through his struggle over there to fight that system, and while we was trying to fight this system. Same system, just two different ways of saying it. So yes, Nelson Mandela gets included into it. By the way, did y'all not? Okay, so let me take y'all back to the movie Malcolm X. Do y'all remember that?
I remember Nelson at the end of it.
Right, Nelson was in the end of that movie, right? That's because Nelson was like Malcolm X. He was trying to fight that system. That's why you have to correlate him into Black American history, because he was actually trying to fight against a white.
Well, at the end, Winnie probably was more like Malcolm X, and maybe Nelson was.
Winnie was. Winnie at the end was more that Malcolm, because Nelson Mandela got old. Okay, that man had been locked down. Damn, I told you how long had he been locked down? Good God, man, he was
damn near 30 years.
27 years. And he was poisoned while he was in there.
Hell up in there, man. They were trying to kill him while he was locked up. So that's what I'm saying. He had went through all of that. He had gone through so many changes, and at that time he was at the end of his life. So naturally, he couldn't really fight anymore, right? But we all know that younger Nelson Mandela was on the Malcolm X level. You understand? So that's why you have to include him in the Black American history. Now, everybody else, the rest of these folks that have been included, you don't get included. Ones that sat back and just said, okay, well, I'm just going to accept the colonizer. I'm just going to go along with it, okay? But he didn't try to go along with that. So we have to include him in with that Black American part of the history of the fight against the system. Yes, we do include him in there.
All right. I want to touch up on this article since everybody's come back in. I just want to go ahead and briefly go over it just so the people who didn't get a chance is quick, just so they can hear it. It says celebrate role of immigration in Black History Month. Although the role of immigration in the creation of the African American demographic has never been truly appreciated, it is now important to revisit it, given the emerging trend of reverse migration engineered by the Trump administration. Although the initial waves of movement of people of color from Africa to the U.S. was involuntary to the extent that it was driven by slavery, the need for labor that drove this was persistent even after emancipation, when a monetary value was assigned to the labor of African Americans under capitalism. Over the years, America, styling itself as a land of opportunity, has engaged in an annual ritual of encouraging immigration from Africa and other regions through what has come to be known as the DV lottery or the green card. Until President Trump was sworn in, there was acknowledgement that the people of color, including Africans, were welcome in the U.S. as part of an agenda to drive diversity and inclusion. With the coming of Trump, however, America has taken a drastic and abrupt U-turn on this policy, triggering a wave of forced deportation of people of color, including Hispanics, who have migrated in large numbers, albeit illegally, into the U.S. So you can see how many times they've already mentioned people of color. The point that is worth making, however, is that the immigration of African people over the century is what it created the ever-changing tapestry of people of color that we identify as African American. True, there are those who, by virtue of birth history, feel that they are more African American than the Johnny-come-latelys. However, it is difficult to run away from the reality that Africans who immigrate to the U.S. and Africans who immigrate to the U.S. and become its citizens are also African Americans. Indeed, some have sought and secured political office with monami Hensley being one of the latest best examples. That act of political inclusion has its roots in the immigration, and this makes it all more important to revisit and amplify the nexus between immigration and the change phase of Black history. In the past, the celebration of February as Black History Month was confined to the demographic that traced its origin to the cotton plantations of the South, which identified with heroes like George Washington Carver, Booker T. Washington, Harriet Tubman, and Zora Neale Hurston. However, that purity has been melting into the culture pot that has brought other Africans and Caribbeans into the mix. Nowhere was this more evident that in the persona of former Vice President Kamala Harris, who was both African and Indian blood in her veins, and who also traces her roots to the Caribbean. We ought to, in my view, celebrate her as the woman of color who scaled the highest peak in American politics and deserves to share a pedestal with other equally worthy predecessors like Condoleezza Rice. Indeed, as part of the Black History Month, we should take time to reevaluate the place of people of color in the Trump administration because, in my view, African Americans, irrespective of their shades, have been handed the short end of the political stick. There is so far no man, woman of color in the Trump cabinet, with the exception of Elon Musk, who has been handed a poisonous cup. There is no high-ranking African American in any key appointed positions in the Trump government, and for a race that has made such progress under the administrations of both Obama and Biden, blacks have been terribly shortchanged by the current administration, despite their support for President Trump at the ballot, which ironically came at the expense of their own daughter, Harris. Okay. One of the shifts that needs to happen is for African Americans to come to terms with the reality that the identity has morphed and is no longer the preserve of the descendants of slaves. It is and ought to be claimed by descendants of men and women of color who were driven to the U.S. by demands of labor. Once this sinks in, the idea of deporting immigrants a few decades or years ago should be mainstreamed as injustice against all people of color, including the African American diaspora. Power is shifting. The control of instruments that create wealth is shifting. So that's basically what that article was talking about. Like I said, it mentioned people of color, like I don't know how many times. It's talking about basically we voted against our own interests with Kamala Harris as well too, because she's supposed to be our daughter or whatever. So a lot of stuff it was saying in that article that I just didn't agree with. Ray, go ahead and unmute your mic.
What's up, News? I just wanted to touch on something you said earlier before that one guy you had to kick out the space came in, and you were talking about how immigrants are saying that in that article, he said basically that we need to, be 100% behind immigration and basically anything that they have going on. But obviously that only benefits them. At the end of the day, it only benefits them. Like, what are we getting out of it? You want me to stand in front of the police and get my brains beat in so you and your family can come over here? Like, no, that's your family. If you love them that much, you need to handle it. That shouldn't be on, just Black Americans. And the second thing I wanted to touch on is you talked about the N-word pass, right? That's on us. It really is on us because when Puerto Ricans and whoever else said it way back then, we should have started checking them. And now it's gotten to the point where they feel comfortable that, we have a person like Fat Joe that can get on a record and say something to the effect of, well, who's going to stop me from saying the N-word? And then he repeats it multiple times. N-word, 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 N-word. They've gotten that comfortable. And it's honestly on us. We should have put a stop to that a long time ago.
Well, yeah, Ray, let's be honest now. Everything is regional as well, too, now. So, the people that grew up in his area, in his neighborhoods, in his city, in his borough, they're the ones that, gave them the green pass to go ahead and say that as well, too. Same ones that sit up here and talk about they was raised in the same projects and all this other stuff. So, somebody in Texas or Tennessee or North Carolina has no control over, the Bronx where Fat Joe came from and him dropping M-bombs left and right. So that's something really in the late 80s, early 90s or whatever, they should have went ahead and put a stop to, but they didn't. So, and it just went ahead. Now I get what you're saying in terms of I guess the music he was putting out, you could have had people in rap behind the scenes say, hey man, you gotta chill on this or you gotta chill on that, but he didn't. So, but here in Florida, where I'm at, I have nothing to do with Fat Joe saying dropping nigga this, nigga that. that's the people where he lives at. So, you know, they gave him a pass and they said it was cool. So they need to go ahead, or they should have handled that, and it wouldn't have escalated. So I agree with you on that part, but at the same time, like I say, it's more so the area and the community and stuff that you live in as well too. And you know, because when we say stuff online about, you know, New York giving the pass and stuff, a lot of New York people got upset and they got pissed off. And no. I'm like, well, damn, who gave them the pass? If y'all didn't give them the pass and say that y'all didn't grow up with them and this and that or whatever, and they were also in this whole thing that they were maligned people and they had to live in the projects with us or whatever, who gave them the damn pass? We didn't give them the pass down here. And I know they tried to play the little fat white boy with the red hair in Texas, talking about, oh, he was saying nigga in the South. Was nigga, please. And nobody in the South, I don't never remember Scarface. I don't never remember none of the major rappers here in the South co-signing some white boy sitting up here talking about nigga this, nigga that. So let's not, and if we want to go and we want to compare the disrespectful lyrics that Hispanics have said up there in New York as compared to the white boys in the South, we can do that. We go ahead and put all your songs, all these white boys, because Bubba Sparks, one saying nigga this and nigga that. There's no major white artist ever came out the South that was dropping M-bombs like that. So, I mean, really, I'm not sure. Maybe Pressure could say Paul Wall. I don't know. And I don't even know if Paul Wall got slick at the mouth like that. So people like, they wanted to go ahead and shift the blame to everybody else and this or whatever. Like, no, it was your area. It was your region that allowed it. And y'all allowed it, and y'all act like he was a black man or whatever. And when he started getting all that kickback and stuff, his whole life he had been a white Latino, and all of a sudden he had became black. He had African roots and all this other crazy nonsense and stuff like that. Let me go ahead and get to my girl Trouble. I see Trouble up here. I got you too, Pressure.
Hey, Newstoter. Shout out to the family. Shout out everybody. What's good?
What's up, Trouble?
Chilling. Came in the room a little bit late, but let's see. Title: Should we celebrate the role of immigration in Black History Month? And I say no. A celebration is something that, you know, when you celebrate, you know, something, it's something that was beneficial to you, something that was, you know, an accomplishment. I don't think I think there wasn't a reverse accomplishment when we championed for immigration. I don't think it's been at all that very beneficial to us in some aspects, and you know, there's outliers, but for the most part, no, it shouldn't be celebrated. Black History Month is Black History Month. Black History Month. Black American History Month. So I believe that our people should be front and centered in our Black History Month, and that goes into this whole movement of delineation. You know, have your Caribbean History Month, have your Africa History Month, have your Haitian History Month, but don't impede upon our Black American History Month and tell us what it is that we should champion throughout our month of history. We can't have anything without everybody else feeling as if they're entitled to be a part of it, share in it, take some credit, get a little A, B, and C in. And it's really getting to be ridiculous at that time. And when as I read the article that you had put up, I kept saying to myself, I wonder if it's a foreigner writing this article right here, because it feels foreign.
Oh, that was a foreigner writing that article. Yeah.
It had to have been, because it felt like something a foreigner would say. Well, Black Americans, you should, and A, B, and C. You know, you all should stop trying to tell us what the hell it is we should be doing. You should focus on you, baby. Focus on you and stop focusing on us, and stop trying to get us to take the focus out of ourselves to focus on you. Now, what I will say is throughout our history in Black America, here in America, we've had, like I said, those outliers where we've had Black immigrants that have been here, that have been beneficial, or that have made a name for themselves, or is worthy of being celebrated. So, shall we celebrate those who are worthy? Yes, we shall, if we want to. But we're not going to carve out a special immigration section of Black History Month just to appease you Black immigrants who decided to come here. You want to celebrate your history and your accomplishments? Do that in your own country. Allow us to have at least 100 or 2 years of Black History Month before you start trying to segue yourself into it. I mean, damn, can we have nothing? You know, it's crazy. So I just wanted to say that. That's my thoughts. That's my opinions, and it is what it is. Love y'all.
No, right. Thank you, Trouble.
They don't want us to have a cold.
My problem with it was the way it was written too. Like I say, how are you going to sit up here and tell Black people who came up with Black History Month that, hey, you know, it basically it's no longer yours. It belongs to everybody. So yeah, it doesn't matter if your people came from, and I like the way they worded as well to the cotton fields and all of this kind of stuff. Like it doesn't matter if they came from the cotton fields or this or that or whatever. It doesn't matter if we're Johnny come latelys. You know, it's just as much mine as it is yours. So go ahead and like, what kind of nonsense is that?
Yeah, that was really janky, and I was reading it, just shaking my head, like, you know, people really be trying to, you know, use certain little words, you know, oh, Johnny come lately. It shouldn't matter. It never matters to these other groups of people, these other nations of people. It never seems to matter to you when you want something else or somebody else. I ain't say that right, but it never. It's as long as it belongs to somebody else. In your mind, it shouldn't matter. It belongs to all of us. But you safeguard and you gatekeep things that are specifically unique to you and your people. And so I don't understand why we still get here in 2025 and you still have these people who persist on segueing themselves into our house. You know, I don't like uninvited guests. I don't even like it when you call and text me and tell me you're coming over. I mean, you know, I don't like company like that. You know, maybe I'm just getting up in that age or whatnot, but I don't like company. I do not like uninvited guests. Don't invite your damn self. And don't come unless I send for you. And we ain't sent for you, so why you trying to come? We keep telling you what it is that we do not like, what it is that makes us feel disrespected, what it is that makes us feel as if you all are just, you're not reading the room. You're not comprehending. You're not smelling what we putting down. It's like, pick it up. You know, and it's getting a little bit tiresome that they keep just insisting upon finding other little niches of our culture that they can insert themselves in. Oh, you niggas didn't have hip hop. It was African beats. It was African drums. It was Jamaican this. Oh, you niggas didn't come up with fried chicken. You know, you didn't. Whether we came up with fried chicken or not, we make it the best. You know, ain't nobody asking for African fried chicken. I ain't heard nobody say that. I'm just saying, make it. So that's all.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Let me go ahead. I'm gonna shoot it over to Black Pressure as well too. I want to get some other speakers up here, guys. So feel free, come on up here. The space ain't gonna go too long tonight. Let me go ahead and get to Pressure. Pressure, what's going on tonight? And also, for those that can, support us on Cash App, $Newstoter, $Newstoter. Newstoter is the largest Black-owned, Black American news media curation platform today in America. Once again, $Newstoter, $Newstoter. What's going on, Pressure?
News, you know you do that on purpose, right?
I have to get it in because I ain't been getting it in lately. It be slipping my mind, so I got to get it in.
I'm about to come off the mic.
I got to get it in there, though.
What up, though, man? You good?
Yes, sir. What's going on, man?
Ain't man, nothing. Trying to play HGTV around my house. It ain't working. But so I'm gonna have to ride with my little bro Ray. Got to ride with him. So I know News. I know you remember those earlier spaces we did. I did. It was 2 occasions that I've personally been in the space where we talked about what region of the country gave the N-word a pass. And like I said, I know it's been 2 occasions. One time it was a space with a room on a long time. And I said, New York is guilty. We put them on trial. We had some couple of cats from New York that said, yeah, we did that. We shouldn't, they went back to the 80s. We shouldn't have done that, but yeah, that's on us. But I've said it. I stood on my own and said it. New York is guilty of that, letting these people that kind of look like us or
you know, as far as genetics and all that, let me.
Some of these jokers don't look nothing. Some of these jokers don't look nothing like us. They look pure white. But go ahead.
Some of them. And I said that I had to have some cats from, you know, Brooklyn or the Bronx come on, and they said, yeah, that's on us. But as far as Bow Wow, he would tell you himself. You can watch his interviews. That's a word he would never use. He knows better than ever say that. But that's a word he said that's a word he would never use, but we would let him use it anyway. But I just wanted to say that real quick. I was gonna ride with Ray on that.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Yeah, like I said, I don't remember Paul Wall saying it. I don't remember Bubba Sparks saying it either when he was down south rapping and stuff like that as well too. So this whole thing that they found some YouTube white boy rapper that was saying nigga this, nigga that, and then they wanted, well, the South, y'all let them say this, right? The South ain't let them say a damn thing. A few handpicked niggas that was with him allowed him to say that, because I mean, he wasn't gonna be on tracks with Scarface and DJ Screw and them crew and all of them saying all of this stuff right here, man. So stop, like, come on, please. You found a nobody. Nobody even know who the hell that dude was. If it had not been for YouTube, we didn't even know who the hell he was. Trouble, go ahead and.
Hey, real quick, if you go watch all of like Fat Joe's old videos, like he'll be like in an alleyway or in some room with like 50 black people and it's nigga this, nothing.
Oh, yeah, I believe it. Like I say, and we said he got a pass from up north. He got a pass from New York in particular. So I mean, like I say, you can't. Please show the equivalent of them doing that down south. Let us all know. I mean, people trying to go ahead and shift the blame on everybody else or whatever. No, y'all let this man for 30 years, 25, 30 years talk reckless. And then he got to the point where he's like, well, hey, not only that, they done propped him up on all these shows. BET's not a black-owned network, but BET constantly propped him up there. How many times did he host the music awards and all this other stuff? Whenever they have any kind of round table discussion, they propping Fat Joe. And let's not act like Fat Joe was this multi-platinum artist from the 90s and stuff like that. Fat Joe actually got better, or he started selling more after Big Pun died and stuff like that. But they act like Fat Joe is the Puerto Rican equivalent of Biggie Smalls or something. Come on. Trouble, go ahead and unmute your mic. You got it.
Coming in after Black Pressure, because see, the last time y'all was in the space and y'all was saying that, y'all had the people in New York flipping out. I mean, about to black out on these posts. So don't you start no trouble, Black Pressure. Black Pressure come in and start trouble and go, we need to switch names for today, because that's what he just did. So what I'm going to say to that is that while it's true that they did give them Ricans the passes up there, we not gonna act like California wasn't letting the Mexicans get away with saying niggas too. It is regional, so they was doing it too, so they complicit as well. And then at the same time, I've lived or been to enough cities and area where it just depends on who you are, depends on your friendship group and makeup. There are black people in different locations spotted throughout the whole United States, really, that allow certain ones of their white friends and who not to get the N-word pass. I've seen it done and with random friends that, you know, or associates rather, that's how they get down. That's not how I get down, but I've seen it happen in different places. So I don't want the New York folks to be crashing out on spaces and holding spaces after space and then comment and post after post about it. Because it is recognized that it's not just in New York, but y'all did that with our facts, so y'all on that. But on the West Coast, a lot of people get N-word passes over there too. So and then in between regional life, I live in the South right now. I have yet to be around people who have allowed the N-word pass. But I'm just saying, it's not like it can't happen in the South. I'm pretty sure it does in certain spots. I've just never witnessed it, you know. And on my side of town in the Midwest, we never allowed that to go down either. But again, I know some people in the Midwest in my hometown who would allow their homies to have an N-word pass. Bottom line is, we got to just stop letting people get away with the N-word pass. That's not to say every time you see a post about it or, you know, you out in traffic and somebody, you know, doing something, you got to put yourself in the midst of it in that moment. That's just to say, at least with your friendship group, if you're around other nations of people, don't allow them to get away with it. And then at the same time, curve how you speak when you're around them. You know, it's no different than my husband going to the market and he's trying to, you know, sell his goods like everybody else is out there selling their goods. But the brother next to him just happened to come this weekend, and now he has a boombox playing loud music. Now the music is good, but you're not playing the, you know, the friendly version of it. Every other word is nigga this, nigga that, bitch this, you know. And you have an array of different nations walking around you at that time. So now they sitting back looking and feeling like, you know, if you're using it, that they could do it too. So a certain way that we could switch our, you know, ish up, you know, around your friend groups or just wherever you're at. But, you know, we got to just start shutting it down. That's all.
Yes, ma'am. And Pressure, you came up here, but you didn't say about the actual topic itself. About you know, should we celebrate the role of immigration in Black History Month?
See, Lou, since trouble evoked it, I was not gonna say nothing because you know me and you done talk in private, and you know me and you said that there's a lot of times, you know, certain topics come up, and the energy it takes to engage in them, I just walk off, right? So what I was gonna say earlier, but I didn't want to start nothing but since it's trouble's fault. This is what I was gonna say towards the topic. I agree with everything you said and everybody what Professor said and what everybody else said. I myself use the term Black American. That's what I use. When I specifically talk about our people group, I use that term. But, and it's just trouble's fault. What I refrained from saying earlier is at what point did the African drop off and the Black American begin? And that's what I was going to say, but I know we'll be on this till the sun come back up. So that's why I walked off from saying it. I just wanted to touch on the N word, but that was what I was going to introduce into the conversation. But I'll mute up and listen.
I guess
How was you gonna introduce that, because it didn't even make any sense? I mean, I don't even get it. And how is that my fault? If she was gonna bring up a subject that
you said I like to make try, I wasn't gonna say nothing until you said it. So I said I might as well do it.
Trouble.
It's trouble for tonight. News, I had walked off and she brought me in.
Put that drink down.
I'm gonna be honest, like I've always used the term Black American. Like I remember like in maybe like going to middle school is when African American, like I heard of some in elementary a little bit, but it was like in middle school when that term really started taking off, like African American or whatever, because we just, you know, we just be like, hey, we Black or whatever. And you like, we all, you're Black American, and that's pretty much all we ever, you know, identified with. And it wasn't until, you know, really middle school is when African American, because Pressure, you and me were around the same age. Like African American is like when it really started to take off was when we was in middle school and stuff like that as well too. And I know, yeah, people say back in the late 80s, and I started hearing about it, don't get me wrong, because I can remember some of those 70s shows we used to watch the reruns as kids, and you hear people saying like on the Jeffersons, I hear them say Afro-American, but then nobody ever walked around the neighborhood, nobody, oh, we Afro-Americans or nothing like that. Because I was like, what is Afro-American? But then, like I say, it was really around middle school time, African American and this and that. And here's the thing, like nobody that I knew growing up said, hey, I'm African American or whatever. Everybody like, I'm Black American. It was always that. So it was like, it was one of those things that even though it was out there, people didn't really identify with it like that.
I remember me coming up, in school where we would take those standardized tests and you have to check the box on your race and ethnicity. And it just like back in the 80s when we was kids, it just said Black. I used that for years. It said, man, I'm Black. Here lately, since, you know, everybody want to play the ethnicity wars, I've been more specific and I say Black American. So That's I always rock with.
Yeah, because back in the day, you didn't have all of those different choices. You just, like you said, you just had to pick one thing, and it was gonna have black up there. So
Then you started to see they started to ask. I don't know, maybe 15 plus years later, they started to ask black, non-Hispanic, and they started to add a bunch of different stuff to it.
yeah, that's true. That is definitely true. Go ahead, DJ, and then Ray. Oh, DJ ain't got his hand up no more.
Go ahead, Ray. Go ahead, Ray.
No, I was just gonna tell. I'm sorry, I got a headphone in because I'm working right now news. But I was gonna say, black pressure. Even we got to be careful with that term, Black American, now because that's starting to slowly be co-op too.
That's true. That now see the trouble I was gonna start, and it wasn't on purpose. It was literally just to kind of introduce another point of vantage into the conversation. But Professor, he touched on it, and maybe somebody else did, but I think maybe it was news or someone else, right? So what I was saying is, from our foreparents or ancestors, because I don't think we don't have any living connection to them anymore. The first ones with the neck irons and the ankle irons out of the slave ship. What I'm saying is, when do you stop being an African, and when does one judge when you say, okay, now I'm Black American? That's what I was saying.
I would say anybody that from those slaves, anybody who was born on those plantations here in America they were no longer African. They were black. So you got.
That's how you look at it.
That's how I look at it, because I mean, and even though I know, and I hate to use this as a point of reference, even though I know it's a movie, and I know people say, well, they had plagiarism in it and this and that or whatever. Even when you look at Roots and you see the actual black people that were already here, that was on the plantation, you see when Kunta Kinte came, like they couldn't relate to anything he was saying because they were here their entire lives. Like the woman he married on that bell say, her mama was American, her daddy was American, her grandparent was American, they was American, this and that. So that's the only thing that that they knew of. They didn't know anything about any other place, living in the other place, or anything like that. So they were inherently American, like after that one generation. So I mean, for anybody that was born here in America doing chattel slavery, that's the only thing they could be. They couldn't be anything else. So I don't look at them, because they didn't look at themselves as African, to my knowledge. Like, I mean, we don't see anything in history where they were still calling themselves on those plantations African, anything like that as well too. So my personal opinion, let's say that, and I know, and like you say, that's a whole nother debate too, because you'll have people saying, when you talk about the actual slaves that came over here on the transatlantic slave trade, you also have people say, yeah, well, the people that was already here as well too. So it just goes about, I guess, how you go about trying to figure it out as well, pressure as well too. I mean, I guess, because if you already have people that was here and then you brought people over here, well, the people that was already here, naturally they're not going to be African or African or whatever, or African anymore. So it just, I don't know. Me personally, after one generation on a plantation, you were born here, you didn't come from any place, you never seen Africa, you was never on the boat, you could never speak the language, you didn't know anything about the food, the customs, the religion, none of that. To me, you're an American, even though you may not have the actual citizenship from the country saying that you're an American. You are born on American soil, and everything you know is about the country. So you'd be an American to me.
I mean, I say this. Won't debate you on it, slightly disagree. I mean, when I say slightly disagree, I'm not saying what you say is nonsense. It's not. I can reason with what you're saying. But what I'm saying is the way I would look at it, like when you say with your, one generation ideology, I say you would not be an African anymore once everything is forgotten. Your custom, your language, your cuisine, your dress. I would say you might disagree, but I would say that would take longer than one generation. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it depends too. Now, because let's be for real, you couldn't practice it. Once they got here, they couldn't practice religion. They, the food and everything else. So I agree with what you're saying to a certain degree as well too. But you did have families and you did and parents, mothers and fathers that say, hey, they weren't going to teach their kids the actual customs because it could mean getting beat or being disciplined or something like that as well too. So within a generation, that stuff could have been totally forgotten and not passed along as well too. Within 2, 3 generations, it could have been totally lost or whatever. So I guess it just depends on how you go about it. I'm looking at it, but me personally, like I say, because if you had never been there, set foot, didn't know anything about it, it's all foreign to you, which it was to a lot of black people. Because let's be for real, those plantations were basically breeding grounds. So there was really the U.S. in terms of having to go and get slaves and stuff even before they outlawed it. It was more cost effective just to breed them on the plantation. You have to worry about half of them, not making it from the voyage and all this other kind of stuff right there. You're breeding them, exactly the stock that you breeding them with. They bred them like they were animals, like they were dogs and stuff like that as well too. So I don't know. I just think personally after a generation being here, and it's not like it's different than when people immigrate. When you got people that immigrate to this country, even today, a generation, that stuff is like their kids a lot of times, if they come from Spanish speaking countries, they can still speak Spanish. They still eating the cuisines and everything else like that. A lot of them carry their customs and their religions. So to me, I can't compare them to like somebody who immigrates over here and they still have everything at their fingertips, even though they're in a different land. Their parents and everything is still intact except for the actual land they're from. They're eating the same. They're doing all the customs they were doing before and this and that or whatever. And they actually remember, if they came here as a child, if they weren't born, if they came as a child, they still remember. And even if they were born here, they're still getting the teachings and stuff from their parents about where they come from.
Yeah, and let me say a couple of things real quick. I want to highlight something because it happens a lot in these spaces. You see how you and I, two black men, could disagree and we not going at each other necks like a dog fight. It happens a lot in these rooms, but I just want to recognize that. Also, too, and this is where literally the blood sport I've been a part of it, unfortunately. I try to never let that happen again, but I've been a part of it and I've witnessed it. And I've said this and I stand 10 toes down on it. You and I essentially agree. We might disagree on the time lapse of when you don't consider yourself African or anything anymore. I get that. Like I say, we could disagree on that, but like I said, I can reason with what you're saying. Like I say, where the blood sport comes in, and I said this in front of everybody. You get, even myself, we could use any moniker we want to refer to our ethnicity. A lot of people, freedmen, indigenous, FBA, Black American, African, whatever moniker you feel comfortable with, that's cool. I have no dog in the fight. But like I say, whether I've seen a blood sport, as I've said, I'm not taking any credit. Many people before me said it, but I've said it in the spaces in front of anybody. You can use whatever moniker you want. You cannot wash your DNA of what's in it. You can't do that. And that's where the battle royale comes. And I told people, you've heard me say this. You can say whatever you want. When you stick your arm out, these people take any kind of sample, blood, saliva, hair, your ancestry is going to go back to that continent. And they have people that swear to God that since 5 centuries or 4 centuries since the slave trade, somehow their DNA has been altered by some magical fairy dust, and they no longer have any genetic connection to that continent. But I'll mute up and listen.
Yeah, you have quite a few discussions going on here. And some of them we may try to go ahead and have some spaces on and stuff, but it just seems like,
You ain't gonna be able to.
Yeah. Once it gets going, man, it really gets going and stuff. So I don't I don't know. Like to me, I mean, I don't care how anybody feels. Feel how you want to feel. You know, if you want to say you're this, you're that, or whatever, it doesn't bother me in the least bit. You know, but it does bother some people on here, and they get to go on into it or whatever. But I don't know. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, it's like I've come to, you know, I've come to the point where I say I just choose diplomacy, and you heard me say it. I say, man, whatever you say you are, that's what you are. I'm not even going to get to it with you where we got to start using profanity and we start using diatribe and ad hominem attacks. I've seen that happen in these spaces and other spaces. Just because people disagree, it literally results to that. And I unfortunately I've gotten into that, and I feel bad because that's not my style. But you heard me, News. I brought this up before. It's an open challenge. It's never been answered. And I'm not doing it to be menacing or anything like that. I'm really doing it to show that you people have no answer for that. I say, and this is only to like people that say you're indigenous and I'm Native American. And that's fine. And I've always been here, and I've always asked you, what race are the black people that have no connection to Africa that always existed in the Western Hemisphere? What race are you in? You've been here. Nobody can ever answer that.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. I believe this. I believe that black people migrated from all over the world at one time. When they started leaving Africa, I believe they inhabited every landmass on this planet. And I believe that you had black people all over here as well, too, South America. Now, I can't tell you the amounts or the numbers or anything like that, but I believe the start, and just based on science. Now, this may change in the next 50, 100 years. It may change. All of us in here are no longer alive or whatever, but just based on science, it seems like Africa is a starting point where humanity started. You had these mass migrations over 100,000 years, and, you know, who knows how the world was. Even I know people say, well, Pangea was a million years ago when it was all connected or whatever. I'm sure these people had enough intelligence to go ahead and travel all over the planet and stuff like that. They were the first people in Europe, Asia, the Pacific Islands, and I believe they were the first people in the Western Hemisphere as well, too. You know, and I don't know how many of them was over here. I can't say if it was a large number, a small number, anything like that, but I believe they were here. But I do believe they migrated, you know, from Africa, and it could have been 20,000 years ago. It could have been 30,000 years ago. It could have been 50,000 years ago. You know, I don't know, but I do believe that. So even if somebody, and it's possible, I get what they're saying, that they're indigenous to this country here, which means that, you know, before the country was actually founded as the United States of America, they were already here. And I believe that to be true. You know, I believe that to be true. 100%. Yeah,
that's an absolute.
Yeah, I believe that to be true. I just, you know, like I say, but, you know, with history, if there's a starting point or whatever, then, you know, you have to include that as well, too. And that would be all of humanity. So I don't have an issue with it.
I don't. But if you try to, like, if you try to have, like, a friendly conversation, gentlemanly conversation, I should say, it's gonna deteriorate in less than 10 minutes. It's gonna be name calling. I was in one room, Blackhead hosted a while back, and I brought up the same thing. These niggas started talking about Pangea, and I said, cool, you know, Pangea is a theory, but that's fine. I wasn't going to debate that. But I did say, when, you know, if Pangea did exist, there were no human beings to and it just went left. It just because I didn't agree with what they were saying, it went totally left.
Oh yeah, I believe it. I mean, I've been in some of these spaces, and I've heard people go back and forth with this stuff as well too. So I like you say, I kind of leave it alone because everybody has their interpretation of what they feel and whatever. It is what it is. I try not to get into it because people, they get upset about it. So, you know, whatever you believe that you are, you know, hey, fine. You know, you are that. If that's what you want to be, that's what you claim to be, fine. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you because I don't know your family tree. I don't know exactly what's what or whatever. I mean, I can't go back and trace 2,000 years in my family tree. I don't think any of us can. So, you know, I don't know exactly where things started, this and that or whatever. But, you know, my family, you know, I don't know anybody in my family from Africa or anything like that as well too, but I know that my genetics are going to have African in it. It's going to have more African in it, than it's going to have European or Asian or anything else as well too. I just know because genetically, I am genetically a black man, and it's just what it is.
You gotta watch that too, News, because like I said, I think, we all clown, we all family in this space. And we like to clown sometimes a little dust up, but ultimately we all family in here. And I brought that up before too. I was like, hey man, whatever you say you are, that's what you are. But I don't claim that. Man, them dudes are trying to tear your head off because you don't think like that. I say I claim I'm like you. I'm gonna go with science, oral tradition, and religious texts and archaeology. I claim African ancestry. If you don't, guess what? That's fine. Neither one of us should lose any sleep around that. But there are people that if you don't agree that you're a Native American or some kind of indigenous person, they're gonna try to go with your name.
I just want to add in this too. I definitely agree with Black is saying. I was in the space last night, and Newstoter is still having space about you, brother. Your name is still popular in Twitter streets for that space you had with Gabe Piemonte. They still talking about that.
Okay. That's good to know.
Newstoter, get your subscription down to Newstoter, the largest black curated news on the web. 30,000 articles pertaining to Black life. Newstoter.
Let's get it.
Let me go ahead and get Black Majority State. Black, what's going on tonight?
Hey, good evening. Hopefully you guys can hear me. And GFNG is crazy work. So I came up because, shout out to the brother, Black Pressure, yes. I came up here for him. So the problem that I have with the whole genetic DNA situation, that genome project, human genome project, I believe it started in the 90s, right? And so you have this feedback loop because we know our people went to Sierra Leone, we know our people went to Liberia, but there's also people that went over there to different parts of the continent, and their DNA could have been mixed into the continent at some level at some point over the time period from which they were moving people here and there and left and right and up and down. And so I have an issue with DNA because it only pinpoints an individual who's in a certain location at a particular point in time, but that DNA does not travel backwards in time. It is that point in time, whatever that was, somewhere in the 90s, and so they could say that these people have a connection to the people that were here in 1990 or whenever the date they took that sample. They really can't take that and then say that those people existed there for whatever period of time that there is. So for me, science tells you something, but I think people are taking what the science is telling you and then adding a lot to it. And even though scientists who do DNA samples will tell you that it's not meant for that, it can't determine race, it really can't determine origin of the people that they take the samples from. It's just a snapshot in time. But to the title, I've been checking in on the PBS series with what's his name, Henry Louis Gates, and it's been the migration story. So I watched the first couple. I think watched the first two, and then they got some other series that kind of complemented, and then now they just dropped the full, where they go into this immigration migration. And I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but my goodness, I kind of skimmed through it. You see Marcus Garvey. You're seeing this narrative that the academics, likely the politicians, Democrats, whatever, they're trying to push this Africanizing of Black America, and they're doing it in this way as well. So it's very dangerous to me. There's a lot of comments in that YouTube, because I think PBS has their own YouTube. I don't know if Ron's watching this space. He probably want to send a cease and desist letter to somebody, but who's involved in that project, but yeah, that's crazy. So I just wanted to come up and add that.
All right, appreciate that, Black. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Anybody else wants to say anything, get something in? Professor, I know you've been quiet for a little hot minute. We ain't gonna keep it going too much longer. Get ready to close it out in a second. Anybody that wants to speak, let me know before we get ready.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, might check 1, 2, DJ. So,
Hey, matter of fact, hold it down for 1 second, DJ.
yeah, go ahead, got it. So, yeah, make sure y'all get an account on Newstoter. It's free to get an account, but if you want to comment and all that other stuff, get a subscription. So, and also follow Newstoter on Funded Social. Shout out to Social. So, pretty much I agree with what you just said right there. Black majority towards Precious argument of the DNA. So I was just in the market the other day talking to one of the homies. We had a conversation about the exact same thing. So his whole narrative, because I was telling him about the Africa want reparations and all this other stuff, and he was saying we all should go back to Africa because so many folks up here in the Northeast are Pan-Africans, and I think right there is the sole issue of us wanting to be infatuated with even wanting to be from Africa. Now, the DNA thing, as far as the blood, those are just marker traits. So you still wouldn't be able to tell me what tribe or what kingdom I came from. You could say I'm from modern day Nigeria, but you still couldn't show me who my family is. So my I want to say his argument, but the point I was kept hitting back to him was you got to do your genealogy. So he didn't really have understanding of that. So I said, hey, your genealogy really is just asking the eldest person in your family. It ain't even got to be in your family. Just the oldest person hey, what was this? What was that? What was going on back then compared to today or whatever? And obviously over here, and this is the reason why we shouldn't integrate Black immigration or whatever integration to Black history, Black American Negro History Month. And someone got to open mic for 1 second. Bang. So we shouldn't integrate the two for the simple fact these folks just was not here in that sense. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Anything after 1865, you are literally geographically. It ain't got nothing to do with DNA at this point. You know what I'm saying? It's about geographics. And I think that's what we really need to understand. You are from the United States of America. You ain't African in that sense. Your bloodline is very far back. And I would even challenge that because here's the reason why. Let's take our last names, right? My last name is Wimbush. It literally bears a royal coat of arms in Europe. So how do we know our ancestors on the Moors that took over Europe and taught the white folks how to wash their behinds, their butt butts, shout out the butt butt. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? So how do we know that? You know what I'm saying? We don't. You know what I'm saying? So now's the time. The time is now to ask the oldest person that you know, hey, what was your parents like, your great grandparents, and what you and go from there. And Total brought it up, the family tree. I don't know anyone's family tree, but you got to start doing your genealogy because here's the reason why. The colonizer here in this country kept detailed records of our people. Remember, a slave even in the 1500s was worth $1,500. So how did these people have that type of money back then? You know what I'm saying? Or gold or whatever it was. What was the value system like? The monetary system like that? Before the Federal Reserve took over here and changed everything, and now we got fiat money. You see what I'm saying? So to be worth over $1,000 on Wall Street, way back in the 1700s and all this other stuff, somebody had buku bucks to finance this operation of enslaving melanated people. We'll just say that. You know what I'm saying? I ain't even gonna say African, because what about the Australian, Tanzanian people? They darker than everyone in here. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing happens to them too. So don't forget them. So when I agree with what Ray said, when you bring up people like Nelson Mandela, yeah, they bring up the Tanzanian people in Australia. You know what I'm saying? If you want to include something in Black history, include that. But some of these nations in Africa, y'all wasn't conquered in that sense. And when you say Black history, y'all don't even acknowledge that y'all Black. in your country. You don't run around saying you're black. You run around saying your country of origin surname. I'm Haitian, I'm Jamaican, I'm Congolese, post-Civil War. It ain't no, oh, we African Americans. We already know Jesse Jackson coined that term, for our elders and ancestors that wanted to keep that tradition of those that were captured and were contraband and enslaved and all this other stuff. Then got their freedom took, whatever it was, if they, still wanted to identify as African, then that's rightfully so. So back to the O&B conversation, right? So shout out to Sister Sean and Tansy. And they tried to tell us this stuff. You know what I'm saying? That, hey, we're not changing our names. We're not so much adding on FBA, ADOS, whatever. For, the freedom is already politically there. We're just combining all of them like Voltron. And everyone with that, with black people in our ignorance when it comes to individuality. Oh, no, I'm a Negro. Oh, no, I'm a freeman. No, I'm a black American. You know what I mean? Not understanding it all mean the same thing. Indian also means Negro. So back to the whole thing of the slave patches and all this stuff. Yeah, in the conversation we had last night, yeah, some folks were captured that were adults. But I think I got to go with the Dan Calloway analogy where it makes the most sense. How did you enslave all these people? You had to have captured people that were young, the youth, and indoctrinate them mentally. You can physically grab them. You know what I'm saying? They can't outrun you. They're not stronger than you. But a child, you know what I'm saying? We wanted to get them like that. These people just running around kidnapping kids, in my opinion. And for the folks or the adults that were being kidnapped, this is just me making not making it up, but I'm just spitting my bars. You know what I mean? Those folks were, just overrun by the rush. What I was saying yesterday, the gold rush of slavery, because you see the crown coming back with all this cotton, all this wealth, all this refined corn and tomatoes now. Because tomatoes is indigenous to America. It's not Italy. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk about that. You know what I mean? Corn, all this stuff is here. It's not overseas. You know what I mean? So, and again, when Columbus landed here, he said he saw Negroes or copper-colored looking brown people. You know what I'm saying? Dark races. You know what I'm saying? That's us. So until you show me that your ancestor came off a slave ship, then guess where you from? Texas. You know what I'm saying? Just that simple. You know what I'm saying? From California. You know what I'm saying? Where your eldest known genealogical ancestor is on record. That's where you from.
DJ, that sounds good. That sounds good.
That's why I harmonized it.
It's anecdotal, but it sounds good. Like, hey, grandmother, tell me about my family. Tell me about our genealogy. She was a victim like me. She could go back further than me because she's older than me. She's no oracle of wisdom when it comes to genetics.
No, that's all you need her to do. I'm not asking you to go back 5,000 years, grandmother.
I didn't say that, but I want to go back more than my third cousin. That's what I'm saying. I want to go back more than my third cousin is what I'm saying.
Right, okay, so when you ask the eldest person in your family today, hey, what was going on, what they say? Like who was the family? Who was your grandmother, auntie, uncle?
Yeah, I had those conversations with my grandma. I mean, I knew my great uncles through her. Not say knew them personally, but like, she said, hey, my brother was, this and your great grandmother, and she could go back like that. But as far as, hey, grandmother, tell me about something 400 years ago, 500 years ago, which I'm interested in, she does not have those answers. That's what I'm saying.
No, she's not supposed to have those answers, bro.
But that's what I'm looking for.
You're on the backside, and here's the reason.
That's what I'm looking for, though, DJ. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm looking for.
You're not going to find those type of answers anywhere on Earth, bro.
That's not true.
You're asking for a Hail Mary pass.
That's not true. You know why? Because they have haplogroups. Haplogroups are passed down from your ancestors, not your second cousin or your third cousin. That's your genetic, your Y chromosomes in your blood. You cannot pseudoscience that. That's what I'm saying. We could have this conversation in another room, but you have haplogroups that can go back a long way. That's why you see those haplogroups, they got mapped where we're related to the ancient Egyptians genetically. You can't Dan Calloway yourself out of that. But like I say, we could have another room one day and talk about that.
All right. All righty. EHZ, I see you having some technical issues up here too. So we got you up here, but you keep disconnecting. Let me go ahead. I'm gonna get to Ant-Man, and then I'm gonna come back to you. So if you drop down, just try to get back up here. But I see you having some technical issues. Ant-Man, what's going on with you tonight?
Hey, thanks for the space and for the mic. I can trace my lineage back to an ancestor who was enslaved on this soil back to 1720. There were two in the 1800s that did not buy their freedom, but they went to court and won their freedom. So my ancestry is tied to the chattel slavery. I don't give a shit, excuse my language, about whether or not they came from Africa. I know who they were, I know what they did, and I know what I'm entitled to as far as reparations. So, you know, y'all can talk the DNA and all that. I get it. You know, you have an interest, but I don't. I want to take a trip to Africa one day and see the sights. But I don't care about the people that came from there. You know, there's a line that cut off. So I'm concerned they fell off a cliff. You know, I realize it's one continuum, but, you know, I'm going with what I know, what I can prove on paper. I don't need a DNA test. I want to say shout out to No Taxation. Thank you for the mic.
No problem. Shout out. I don't know if I gave you a shout out earlier, but shout out to my girl Val down there as well too. I see Goddess. Hey, I see you down there. I see A Boogie down there as well too. So let me go ahead and see if EHZ, you want to go ahead and say something?
Newstoter.
What's going on?
Yeah, I'm having some technical issues with my microphone. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Wonderful. Thanks for the space tonight. Greetings to everybody. I usually don't come up, but this is just a very interesting space. Kind of hits home in a lot of ways. By the way, I'm from Homestead, if you know what that is.
Yes, sir. I know where that's just south of Miami. So yeah.
North of, I think where you from in Florida.
Yeah, I'm in Tallahassee, and you guys are south of Miami.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's where I'm from. To the top, I don't think we should. Clinton's not Black American, but we're gonna have some problems. Not ones that
You still there, EH? Because you're breaking up on us.
resemble.
Yeah, EH, you in the Matrix. Can you hear us? Can you hear me, EH?
Choppy. I don't know what's going on. I made some.
Try to drop you down. We're gonna drop you down and try to come back up and see if that may clear it. I'm gonna drop you down and see if we can get you to come back up. Maybe that might clear up his phone for him. I gotta give a shout out to my girl Stephanie for the contribution on Cash App. Thank you, Miss Stephanie. Appreciate that. Hopefully we can get EH up here as well too. And get them up in here. I see we got a number of our people up in here, man. So like I said, we ain't gonna hold this thing. I wanna get EH up here. See my girl Tata. Tata, you ain't came up here and spoke in a minute. So I know Tata, you be doing your school and stuff too as well too. But when you get a chance, not this, it don't have to be this space. When you get a chance, definitely come back up here. We miss hearing from you and hope everything is going well. Shout out Carrie, I see you down there as well too. Shout out to everybody that's up in here. EH, he's having some issues, so he may not be able to because he tried to connect about 3-4 times, and unfortunately he kept dropping back down and whatnot. So EH, hopefully you'll get back up here. if you get a chance, because the space ain't gonna be going too much longer. And anybody else that wants to support on Cash App, we definitely need that support, even if it's $1, $sign Newstoter, $sign Newstoter. Miss Dana, I know you chilling. I know you would have came up by now, so I know you're not coming up. But shout out to Dana and Judge Joe Brown. Make sure they do their Twitter Spaces 9:00 on Tuesday. I know sometimes we got the Newstoter space going on, but sometimes we ain't doing a space. If not, definitely swing by and holler at Dana and Judge Joe Brown as well too. So I miss having Judge Joe Brown. Dana, I'm gonna have to holler at you and see if we can get the judge back up in here, because I definitely miss him coming up in the space as well. Let me go ahead and get to Black Majority State.
Okay, I appreciate it. Black Pressure, you got an open invite. You know, anytime. I'll do the space every Friday. We can sit there and chop it up.
What's the name? What you call it? I know you got some kind of name for it.
This week? Oh, man, I'd have to look at it. I'll send you the DM about it.
Yeah, hit me up. Just hit me up. Hit me up now.
Yeah, this was something that just kind of came out from this New Scientist, website. And in it says, a study of ancient DNA from people who lived in Europe between 1700 and 45,000 years ago suggests that 63% of them had dark skin and only 8% had pale skin. So when we're going to talk about DNA specifically, and you have this historically thought to be this pale population that was captured in Europe, whatever they were doing, and the theory had always been that they were purely white, blonde hair, blue eyes, yada, 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 and then they got the brown from intermarriage or whatever. But here's what the DNA, this is why it's so fluid, it's a fluid conversation. Now they're saying that no, in fact, most of the people there were in fact dark-skinned people for much of that time period, until recently, and in fact, the last time, like a year ago, they were saying like maybe 8,000 years ago, this white mutations, these genetic mutations started to appear. Now they got it all the way to 1,700 years ago, or at least 1,700. So what I'm saying, and then the other thing about haplogroups, which are genetic markers that travel with people, is that on the continent of Africa, they weren't living in what we know today as these countries. They were nomadic people. They were tribal people. They were moving around a lot. Maybe not across the whole continent, but certainly not staying in that one geographical area. And then lastly, I'll say this. Sumeria, people often highlight Egypt as this, great African civilization. And it was that. But Sumeria also was an African, melanated, Afro-Asiatic, however you want to call it, darkly melanated people group. And their culture is just as ancient and just as, important and magnificent as the Egyptian culture. And in fact, they were trading partners, and they probably were warring partners as well. So there's a lot to the story. And I consider that as a part of Africa, too. I don't buy the Middle East thing. So I do consider that.
Yeah, you read my mind, bro. You read my mind. I was gonna bring that up, but you read my mind.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then if you look into the Bible about the Hebrews being pushed out of Judea, pushed down into the continent, and they make it into the West Coast, and that's how we got over here. There's a lot of this traveling of people and genetic flow and all of that. So all I'm saying is, yeah, we likely do have a connection to the continent of Africa. That's a very strong possibility. But I don't think that determines who we are as a people. I don't think that is our story necessarily for most of us. Some people may want to connect back to it, and I salute you and I say go for it, do your thing. But I don't think it defines us. I don't think it ever will define us, in fact, unless we get power enough to go back there and start getting resources out of the continent. And then creating like a mutual beneficial relationship between us and the people who are there currently, because that Arab religion is pushing down on the continent, and at some point it will smother the continent.
Hey, big bro, I say the same thing, but I say it in the N words, and I have no like I say, I have
Uh-oh.
It was always in the Western Hemisphere. I have no beef, none. I'm not going to lose no sleep. I won't even debate you. More power to you, brother. What I'm saying is I claim my African ancestry. The same grace I extend to you, where I won't call you out on it, I just ask people to do the same thing to me. If you can claim you from the planet X, like some of these far out guys say, the Nuwapians say all that stuff, brother, knock yourself out. But when I claim my African ancestry, don't come from my head. That's all I ask.
No black poverty.
I definitely agree on that one. Let me give a shout out real quick to Swanee and EHZ for their contributions on Cash App as well, too, guys. Anybody else wants to speak before we close it out? We got DJ. I see he got his hand up. Anybody else in the listener section?
Y'all know y'all be wanting to come up here. I ain't gonna send you to the shadow realm. You don't come
I keep getting stuck in the matrix too, man. So I'm not gonna be going. I keep getting stuck in the matrix. So anybody that wants to come up, and if you're talking and I can't immediately respond, that means I may be in the matrix. So we're gonna go ahead and get DJ. I guess a DJ, you probably be the last speaker then.
I'm saying, bring your butts up here real quick. Last call for alcohol. You know what I'm saying? Trouble was good. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Tata, don't be FAFL.
Tata getting a study on though. She's probably Tata getting a study on.
Hey, look, I got something to say, y'all. Now, this is going to be a little bit off topic, but shout out to the ancestors or whatever maybe caused that old ass white racist so-called, whatever his name is, that tried to kill that young black man, young man Ralph Yori, I think was his name. Who is it?
Ralph Y'all.
Oh, okay. I forgot who the old man is. I can't think it don't even matter. But the racist white man that died at 86 years old as they tried to give him a proper announcement today. Shout out to the ancestors for going ahead and taking them on out of here.
So now, was he locked up? Was he in jail? I'm not sure.
No, he was out. He was out. He was getting ready to.
Nah, he's out. They charged him though, and they booked his photo and everything. That's why you see a mugshot up online too.
Yeah, he was getting ready to be sentenced because he pleaded guilty, and he was getting ready to be sentenced, and he died before he could be sentenced. So hey, shout out to the ancestors for going ahead and removing him. Now let's send him on down to hell, because that's where he needs to go. That's where he belongs. And that goes for all of the races. All of you need to go to hell right now. Burn in hell. I'm sorry about that, Total.
All righty.
Hold up a minute, Professor. You still got to show me the body, though. You know what I'm saying? Because otherwise it ain't happen.
That's true. That's true. Well, we haven't even seen that other racist that left here last year. What was that lady's name? Carolyn Bryan that called Emmett Till's death. So may she also burn in hell too. So for all you races that have passed on and ones that getting ready to pass on, may you all burn in hell. Okay, eternal hell. Cause that's where you're going. So I'm gonna land right there.
All righty. You go ahead, DJ. I'm gonna give you real quick since nobody else wants to come up. I'll let you get it in real quick, and then we'll go ahead and we'll shut it down for the night.
I'm saying, shout out to the room, shout out to Ant-Man, because that's really what it is. So back to the conversation at the grocery store, you got to do your genealogy and whatever the paperwork is here. Like Ant-Man was able to find it back to the 1700s, and his people fought for their freedom. But you ain't got too much of the other details. Hey, that's an American actor. You know what I'm saying? Word up, we might have to call him Big Bro. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, should we celebrate the role of immigration in Black history? No, for what? These people just literally got here. I think we here in our age group of 35 to 50 assume these people been here the whole time we was getting our butts whooped in. No, bro, they just got here, literally, like yesterday. And when you talk about these parades and their celebrations and wars and history, they don't mention us. They excluded us from CARICOM. And still do to this day. So it's like, hey, man, you talk about wanting to be included. We ain't asking y'all. You know what I'm saying? Why you asking us? You know what I mean? We ain't trying to be on a call with y'all in that sense. Why Why you trying to grip and gate guard our stuff when we try? So that's some telling stuff. And don't forget the most important thing: the year of return was a scam that's already been documented. Because people travel how they want to travel. To have little groups, right? You know what I'm saying? The nomads and the gypsies. You know what I'm saying? We go where we want to go. You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, let's all go to a black state. And that way we can do our thing, get our reparations, and live peacefully. Over and out.
All right. Shout out to Miss Valerie and Clarence as well for the contributions on Cash App. Go ahead, Stephanie. You got it.
Okay. I just wanted to say also to add on to Professor Geeky's response. I say salute to the ancestors, and also there was the plane crash that killed the 2 people a couple of days ago. Come to find out, those very same people were the ones that took this black kid's land and threatened him about his land. This was posted a couple of years ago, so shout out to the ancestors on that as well. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Miss Stephanie. All right, going once, going twice. I think our people are cool, so nobody wants to come back up and speak, which is cool. This is about the time anyways. 10 o'clock is about when I want to close it down anyways, guys. So on that note, we're going to go ahead and we're going to shut it down for the night. Thank you to everybody who came up to speak, who listened, shared the room out. Thank all you guys who also donated on Cash App. That is greatly appreciated. Shout out to you, family. We're going to go ahead and we're going to close this thing down tonight. And I'm going to see about tomorrow doing a space. I'm not entirely sure what I got to do, but I'm going to try to see what's up. And I'll go ahead and I'll retweet it out during the day just so you guys can know. But on that note, peace. DJ, you're not doing nothing tonight, are you? You and Professor, y'all not doing nothing, are you?
Every night, Pinky. It's every night.
All right.
Take over the world.
Pinky in the brain. Oh, Lord. See, that's just like the.
We're going to do a space tonight called Racist Burning Hell.
Ready, Bright? Let's go.
That's what's up. Well, let me go ahead and shut this down, guys. Peace. We'll holler at y'all later on.
Hey, just real quick too. You know this X stuff is janky. Y'all gotta update y'all phones and restart them. And obviously, everyone gotta upgrade. It's getting to the point I gotta upgrade my phone. This app is getting janky and jankier. So in case anything happened, come over to Newstoter, make an account there. Come over to somebody got the janky app. Somebody got a janky app.
No, because I had my mic unmuted because I was about to hang up in the space. But go ahead.
Yeah. Now just come to Newstoter in case we wind up losing each other over here because nothing lasts forever. You know what I'm saying? So newstoter.com. Make sure you get your subscription and support so that way we can continue to bring you just super high fire news every night, Monday through Thursday, 8 o'clock on. And obviously the late night space, and we do our Black State every Friday from about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock on in the early afternoon until the wee hours of the morning if we get that far. So it's like, hey, Funded Socially, Newstoter's on Funded Socially. He is the main curator of the news up there, largest black curated news. Come up to Funded Socially, download the Mighty Networks app, so I'm back into Funded Socially. We are going to start going live over there at least 2 hours a night. And we're going to figure it out. But go ahead, man. Hang it up.
All right. Peace. On that note, we're going to holler at you guys. So peace.